Good evening, everybody. Today, my helper Carter and I are hopefully going to show you how to properly adjust a sunroof glass. Since he does not have opposable thumbs, I'm going to have to do most of the filming here. I've got a video on how to remove the glass, but I never really covered how to put it back in and get it properly adjusted. It's pretty much the same for most vehicles. The differences may be the size of the screw that holds them in and how many of them. So I'm going to show you how to do it on this one, but just know that this is a pretty generic process across all, not all, but most sunroofs. Okay, so got my light on here. And what we have here, this is the GMC. This is a 2015 GMC. All right, so you got your little blind thingy here. Ford calls this a concertina shield. Why in the world, I couldn't tell you. But most people call it the accordion thingy. Whatever. They pop on here. You want to get your finger right behind it. You don't want to grab it down here because they can tear. This one won't. This one just falls off pretty much. But the Fords are on there really tight, and these are on there fairly tight. But you pop it off. And there's your two screws. Torx number 25. Torx number 25. Okay. If you wanted to take it out, you'd remove both of those and the ones on the other side, and you just lift it out. But we just want to adjust it. So how do we adjust it? Simple enough. You put a Torx number 25 in here. Now, some vehicles have Torx number 20s. I've seen some with Phillips. I've seen some with just hex heads, although those are pretty rare. Either way, the adjustment process is generally the same if you have this type of sunroof. So you loosen this, and this will bump up. And matter of fact, let me just loosen it. This side's already adjusted decently, but I'll show you how it moves. Let me move this out of the way. All right, there we go. Now you're going to be able to see this little ear here that's attached to the glass. You're going to be able to see that move when I loosen this. All right. So, you see it up and down? Well, somewhere in that travel, it'll probably come down a little bit more if I got out there and pushed on it. Somewhere in that travel range, though, is proper adjustment. Now, what is, quote-unquote, proper adjustment? Let me show you. All right. Carter, you stay in the truck. Don't drive anywhere. You can look at this seal, and you can see this is almost dead flush with the roof. I mean, the rounded part here is a little higher, but the actual seal where it's touching, it's dead flush. All right, you know that surface is probably about that big. We'll open it and see. So you want as much as this seal contacting the roof as possible. You can see over here, it's almost just right, but it is just a touch low. So it could stand to be tweaked up. This is fine. This isn't going to cause a problem. It's not going to have excessive water coming out of it. But it could, if you want it to be absolutely perfect, it could come up, however much that is, a millimeter, half a millimeter. So how are we going to do it? Okay, well, what we're going to do is, I do believe I've already got this one down. We're going to hook this into this. There we go. I'm going to loosen it. And I'm going to, if you want to see me tweak it up a little bit, and I'm going to tighten it while I'm holding it up. Now let's see if I got it. And you can go back and forth several times, as many times as you need to get it right. But now you can see that is about as dead flush as you're going to want to get. I don't want it up much higher than this. Matter of fact, I don't think I want it up any higher than this. This is perfectly fine. All right, and that pretty much matches this one. This one might be a touch higher. I mean, you're really splitting hairs to need it any higher than that. So if I got it to right there, I'd probably just leave it alone, which this is my truck, so I'm going to leave it alone. Now, if you want to see, let's get a visual of how all right. Let's see here. Okay, you can see the surface that it mounts to, or not mounts to, but touches. This is what it seals against. All right, and then you can see the seal. Now this truck's been in a lot. Where I live in the South, and this is a lot of pollen. So you can see where it seals at the top and the bottom, and it's black right through there in the middle. That's where it's sealing really pretty good. And that's just mostly where water just runs around and then runs off the truck. But some of it does get by here, and that's what your sunroof drains are for. But you can notice this surface is kind of flat. You want as much of that touching that surface as possible. All right, so, and that's what you want. So if it's down here, you'll only be, oh, let me back up. If it's flush, like I just had it, like I just adjusted this one here to right there, then it's touching all the way from the bottom. But if it's down here, then you're only using about half of your seal. You want to use all of it. So that's really all there is to it. Adjust it until it looks like, let me see if I can shut this from in here without dying. There you go. That's what you want right there. So whether you've had it out or it's just slipped a little bit, sometimes these the mechanisms sag down a little bit over time. But if you'll notice, this glass pretty much is right. This seal is pretty much flush all the way. That's what you want. That's what you're going for. You could have it up a little higher if you wanted it to. Sometimes when they get a little older, the seal collapses a little more, and it may be better to have it sitting up a little bit. But this one's not to that point, so I'm not going to do it this way. I will say this seal, if you notice, my seal was kind of flat. Some seals are more rounded, and so this is an exaggeration, but they've got a peak sort of like my knuckle there. So that's your part you want touching. Now those, you really want them flush, because if they're down, then the peak part will be almost off the roof surface. Just look at your seal, see what you have. Most seals look like this one, and they're sort of flat. And if they're flat, you want them as much of that seal touching the surface as possible. So that's a little longer than I meant to make the video, but I think it served its purpose. This is how I adjust, and how pretty much I feel like everybody should adjust their sunroofs. If you're even close to where this one is, right there, or right there, even if you're slightly higher or slightly lower, you're good to go. So anyway, questions, comments. You want to get a shout out to a dude who's working really hard there. I don't know, dude. You weren't much help. Anyway, I'm sure he says hello to everybody. Anyway, there's where you want your sunroof adjusted to, right there. Questions and comments? Let me know. One thing I forgot to mention, if you have a twin glass sunroof, Vista, Panoramic, or whatever your manufacturer calls it, where the rear glass doesn't move, but the front one does, and there's no gap between the glasses, the front glass seals against the front of the rear glass. So if your back of your front glass seal touches the front of the rear glass, those I do not like to adjust exactly flush. I like to have the front glass, if at all possible, just a touch higher, 0.5 millimeter maybe, just a little bit higher, period. The reason being is there's a little bit of play or slop in the track mechanism, and depending on which way you shut it from, if you don't adjust it just a little bit higher, you can end up with it a little low when it's shut, if you shut from the wrong direction. So for a twin glass sunroof, Panoramic, Vista, like say F-150s have, and I think Jeep Grand Cherokees have, and I'm sure many other vehicles do, where the front glass seals against the back glass, adjust your front glass, just the back of your front glass where it meets the rear glass, adjust them just a little bit higher, and not dead flush like I showed you in the video. So everyone have a good night or afternoon, whenever you're watching this, morning. And questions, comments, let me know.